We have a lot of fun here at Baby Beard, but today I'd like to talk to you about something a little more serious. Every year, Australian podcasters like ourselves give up their semi-valuable free time to produce tens of hours of audio content, crafting in-jokes, cobbling together flimsy segues, and doing the bare minimum of research. Then, we submit our shows to the Australian Podcast Awards in the dim hope of a sliver of recognition. In just 2 minutes, you could visit AustralianPodcastAwards.com, click vote, scroll through tons of great content to find Shut Up and Take My Podcast and Imaginauts, and smash the thumbs up button. Your index finger could make all the difference to a bunch of mates making jokes for your entertainment. Thank you.
Baby Beard!
90s to a T.
Yeah.
I say champagne, I will call it champagne.
Oh, no, we got so many good episodes to watch.
Oh, wait, I'm getting it. Nope, changed my mind. Boom.
This is funny until you have it.
No, but seriously, wave after wave of man.
In the future, there's an owl problem.
Sorry, but like, his name, huge ass.
Not huge. You listen to our podcasts.
I'm sorry, the whales on the moon.
We carry a harpoon. God damn, I hate that we said that.
Shut up and take my podcast.
We welcome you to the Outer Limits.
I was going for God.
Well, that's who he was based
Yeah.
off of. The announcer
okay.
from the Outer Limits.
Right.
You run into a room, blah, 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 blah.
Sounds like
Consider a man.
Val-
Is that Out of Limits?
Yeah.
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 I always thought that
you're
was...
in a room. It's spinning, and I don't know what
yeah.
happens.
I always thought that was...
Twilight Zone. It's probably both. They're
Very
kind of similar.
similar, But they both have that kind of introductory.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like this is an Outer Limits podcast, but welcome everybody to Shut Up and Take My Podcast, the Futurama podcast that pits episode against episode in glorious gauntlet battle for your entertainment. I'm joined here by Phil.
Actually, it's fall.
Yep.
By Ellen.
I'm just trying to listen to all the prayers coming out of my ass.
And Sean.
I told you Bender's redeemable, damn it.
Yeah, well, it takes God himself
Oh, yes.
to redeem Bender.
To be fair,
chat with
even God says it doesn't matter right or wrong, it's what you do. And Bender did kill a whole species of people.
I mean,
Which
they
also
killed
fits into my
themselves.
other theory.
Which is...
So much death when
Yeah.
Planet Express are around.
Oh, yeah, this whole species dies out in nuclear
Fallout.
Armageddon,
fallout.
yeah.
In Armageddon,
Directly his fault. Unequivocally.
Well, no.
He gave them the means. He had a nuclear
This is-
weaponry in his ass.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, my nuclear pile. If they didn't find the nukes in his butt,
They wouldn't have had the technology.
But, like, we made nukes out of what we have available to us.
whatever God has in his butt. Our God.
Yeah.
Our God's butt.
And to be fair,
Yeah.
Full of you,
Mother
right?
Earth.
Mother Earth.
to be fair, many people do blame God for war. So
Well, we've come full circle. I'm glad that we've solved all...
We've solved war and
all-
suffering and God.
all
Yeah.
conflict.
That's great.
The episode
Should we
we
get
are
on to
doing
the episode then? Yeah.
is season 3, episode 20, Godfellas,
Yeah.
which is
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not really...
An odd pun to be making since there's nothing about the mafia or
Yeah.
organized crime. Like, I thought this was going to be the one with the robot mafia.
We've already
but-
had 2 Robot Mafia episodes.
Bender Gets Made.
Bender Gets Made, which is a mafia joke
Yeah.
about the creation of a robot. It's a funny pun. And the other one is
And
called...
the one that has Flexo, which will be...
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's all right. It's fine.
But, yeah.
But yeah, it's just a pun with God, and that's what they
Yeah.
came up
Sometimes
with.
they
not
do
your
that.
best, not
Yeah.
your best work, Futurama.
we don't judge the episodes and their title
I mean,
generally.
Cyber House Rules has nothing to do with the plot of Cider House Rules, really.
Yeah, it just they both
Yeah.
involve an orphanage.
Yes.
that is literally the only connection.
This just happens to involve most of the letters of
Yes.
the movie.
Yeah.
That's right.
The director for this episode is Susan Dieter, back from Cyber House Rules.
Okay, cool, nice.
She's also a Simpsons writer. She's done 11 episodes over 13 years. So she actually stopped, did Futurama, finished up Futurama, and came back to Simpsons. There was like a 10-year gap between episodes.
That's really interesting because these are both episodes with a really sympathetic Bender.
That's true. She loves writing for Bender.
Yeah, like
yeah.
Bender as Daddy Bender with his orphans.
At
Adorable.
first,
I love that
complicated
so-
Daddy
so
Bender,
much.
but Daddy Bender nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You
Daddy.
lumble scamps.
Yeah. And we have here trying desperately
to
be a
not kill
good
everyone.
god, right?
Yeah.
He really wants
He's
to
trying
be.
his best.
He gets really upset when it all goes horribly wrong.
He really is escalating, isn't he?
it's
Like, first he was dad, then he was Pharaoh, now he's God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does he go from here? Friend.
Well, he becomes like Lord of Time, doesn't he? He gets the time code.
Well, like a time lord
God,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
he gets the time code, and he can travel anywhere in time.
So he becomes a Time Lord.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Which
Natural progression.
is, I
God
would
and
say,
gods.
more fun than being God.
yeah, that's right.
certainly.
Especially when your only ability as a god is to just like give out commandments
Yeah,
and
well-
float through
Listen
space.
to prayers.
Way
Yeah.
to bitch about Doctor Who, by the way Stephen Moffat writes the Doctor. It is like the be-all, end-all of the entire universe, so he might as well be God.
Throwing some shade.
Whatever, he's done. He's out.
He's
writer.
got more money than us.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, definitely.
The writer for the episode is Ken Keeler, my personal favourite, from Time Keeps On Slipping. So this reunites Susan and Ken back from the honking.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
They were the team that brought you the werecar, which is why the gypsy's back.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. They
I
obviously
do have
like that character.
I do have a thing about that.
Yeah. But
Not
Ken
very
Keeler-
nice to the Romani.
Ooh.
They also
I mean,
brought
she's-
back a character.
She
I
is
know
a,
it is
a
a-
machine. Like
Yeah.
it's more of a parody on
Big, the movie, right?
sort of,
Or that
and
whole-
those machine and like
Fortune-telling machine.
fortune telling.
Yeah.
The idea of fortune telling,
And it has a gimmick attached to
Yeah,
it, sort of thing.
that she is
I
a
would-
gypsy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would. It's pretty innocent. It's not really ripping on.
No,
on
yeah.
Romany or gypsies.
Yeah. So one thing about Ken Keeler is they actually have a character I realized in Futurama. So you know in Jurassic Park when the two lawyers come up under the rain and they're talking to Fry about his dog and you'll see it when it comes. Basically,
But I do vaguely, yeah.
one of them carries the likeness of Ken Keeler and the character's name is Ben Beeler.
Really? That's
Oh,
great.
that's prime writing yourself in.
yeah. Nice and subtle.
Air date March 17th, 2002, St. Patrick's Day.
I mean, it means nothing in
To
terms
this
of...
episode, yeah.
Well, hang
Oh, you
on,
didn't catch
no.
the St. Patrick's Day
Saint
throughout?
Patrick is a saint, the Trinity. He's the one who explains
Booze.
the Holy
Yeah.
Trinity.
God, see, it's all relevant.
Yeah.
It's all relevant.
God, booze,
right, that's
and
right.
you know we know the Irish love their booze.
That's-
Don't write letters.
And
we know
introducing
we're being offensive.
God.
Yes,
God, without really... well, yeah, it is God. It's God, but
God,
it's not directly
God.
God, but it's
Question
God.
mark.
He sort of doesn't. He's like maybe.
Yeah,
Sounds
I don't-
probable.
That could
Yeah.
be. Yeah, that's probable.
Yeah, what was it? It's a supercomputer that
Collided with
collided.
God,
Computerized probe.
collided with the remains or God.
which
It's like-
makes no sense.
No,
But-
that is highly probable.
But it sounds probable, so
I feel like God would have the attitude of like, "Are you God?" He'd be like,
I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah. Well,
sure,
he
maybe.
defines himself by that he is compassionate to all things.
Yes,
Interesting interpretation of God, certainly.
and can see all things in the universe, right?
Yes.
Yes, I saw.
Yes.
You were doing really well until everybody died.
You can say that for a lot of things.
What is the plot of Godfellas?
So very casual opening interrupted by space pirates.
Yeah.
Which are like pirates, but in space.
Oh, right. Is that what they
Right,
are?
yeah.
Oh.
In case anyone at home was wondering,
That makes
that's
sense.
what space pirates are. And I do want to talk about the gleeful design of the space pirates in a minute.
Yeah.
But in an attempt to fight them off, they shoot Bender instead of a torpedo because he's in the torpedo tube trying to get some
Having
kip.
a nap.
Yeah.
Torpedo Tube 3.
And they can't catch up with him because he's going arbitrarily fast. He's going too fast.
Well, it kind of makes sense,
They were
doesn't it? They were
going
going the
as
fastest
fast as
speed
they
that the ship
could.
can go.
And they shot him out forwards, so they can't go any faster.
Right.
So they
But
can't catch up with him, so
then,
he's doomed to drift through space.
like... ooh.
Don't.
Okay.
It's
we're
cartoon
not,
physics.
We're not going to talk
No.
about, like, inertia or
He
anything.
collides with an asteroid, which has a civilization on it, which regard him to be a god. He's not very good at it. Meanwhile, Leela and Fry are Fry in particular is desperately looking for a way to get him back and find him in the cosmos. And eventually, Bender finds God himself, and Fry finds Bender. The end.
Yeah, you know, Leela... Well, no, before that, what do we think, guys?
It's
Yeah.
fun. I think
a high concept episode.
yeah, in I didn't laugh as much as like
No.
I thought I would, but I was highly invested kind of the whole way
it's
through.
a different kind of episode, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I
and
think
it-
it's probably important to mention. I'll rattle through its accolades.
Go for it.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
IGN ranks at number 1 on the top 25
Okay,
Futurama
right.
episodes.
Really?
Empire ranked the whole series as number 25 on the best 50 TV shows of all time and cites this episode as the best episode.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Groening calls it one of the best episodes that Futurama ever had, and the Writers Guild of America gave Ken Keeler the award for... because it's the WGA Awards for Television in Animation. Ken Keeler got Best Writing for this episode.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you got.
Yeah. So clearly well loved.
Yeah, it's a very
Ruminating philosophical episode.
yeah,
more
it's,
so.
it's
yeah.
a high concept episode.
Yeah.
Which uses the sci-fi frame of the show to say something quite interesting and profound.
Yeah.
I think, or explore something quite
Yeah.
profound.
Belief and what we're willing to do. I really love Fry works really well in terms of exploring belief, where he says, "No, you just have to hope more."
Yes.
It's
So
it's
Fry.
a really great. It's really great Fry, but it's also a really great line when talking about faith and belief and continuing to search for things.
Yes.
And I love how dogged he is in trying to, not only that, but how upset and just devastated he is at losing Bender. Like, we see the same kind of emotion from him in Jurassic Park or when...
He's a deeply feeling person.
When Leela is in a coma, he really does love the people around him, and he needs those people.
Oh,
like-
the sting. Oh, that's such a heartbreaking
yeah,
episode.
but it's
Oh.
a similar Fry we see there.
Yeah.
Obviously, bit harder because of how much he loves Leela, but I would say loves Bender
Fry-
just as
Equally,
much,
yeah.
just not in a want to pursue
Romantic
a
way.
yeah.
As dumb as Fry is, he's a romantic. Like
Yeah.
we remember when we first started the podcast and we watched the series as landed, and Fry has this moment where he's on the moon and he's looking at the Earth and he just has these profound thoughts. You're like, you have these thoughts from time to time.
Yeah.
He's just an incredibly emotional feeling
Also,
human being.
Yeah, as much as the joke is everyone you know is dead.
Yeah.
you know, years in the future. Yay! You also can't just be put in that situation and not feel anything at all.
Yeah.
Fry's still one of us, and it's just his excitement and naivety often outweighs how deeply he can think about things.
Yeah, I mean that moment in that episode where he's really channeling for us. Him in this episode doesn't do that so much, but he is.
Continuity wise, it fits him.
Yeah, and his dedication in this episode is so wonderful and endearing, and makes us to line up right behind him, where he doesn't think twice about trekking to the Himalayas.
Yep.
To beg to use a telescope.
Which is a death trap in its own right.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll need a long sleeve coat.
Yeah, that's right.
Also worth pointing out that there was an empty pizza box that he'd eaten after 3 days, which means he ordered pizza
Yeah,
and the
how did-
delivery man went up there.
That's right. Maybe
Probably
the Sherpa
Sherpa,
came back with it.
yeah.
Yeah. I did not think of that. The pizza
I
delivery box.
was going to point it out.
That's
if
a
you
really good
didn't,
point.
But,
I love that Leela is very honest in her assessment of the situation's dire, and she doesn't care as much as Fry. Her
No.
line is specifically Fry. Look, I care half as much as you.
Yeah.
At least half as much that Bender's gone, but this is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
she still goes along though because
And she still fights to defend his idea.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
and clearly it shows a lot about how Leela feels about Fry,
Fry.
less so than how she feels about Bender. You know,
Oh,
she's
Fry's upset, that's the problem.
exactly, and but also Fry's upset, and he's going into a very
Death.
precarious situation.
Death.
So she'll always be there to make sure that he's safe, which is a nice little kind of emotional, through line for the Leela and Fry thing.
Let's cycle back. You were talking about the funky design of the ship you wanted to touch upon.
so
Oh, the space pirates.
yeah. Well, this
Sorry.
episode goes to like a deep
Pirates in
place,
space.
but it starts with such a sense of glee and fun that it kind of helps carry you into that serious stuff.
Yeah.
And earns it. So when I think the the episode opens really wonderfully. It's got this
so
really
long.
epic sci-fi sting and like 3D shot of this majestic spaceship flying in front of the sun, and then undercut that with Leela going so casual in her spaceship.
What, like
And then-
95% of their time on the ship would
Must be,
Yeah.
right?
And they really do stretch that out
Yeah.
for as long as they possibly can without
And-
it being annoying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pirates themselves are on 3-masted pirate ships firing cannonballs.
Yep.
The pirate himself has got 2 eye patches and 3 of
3.
his 4 legs are peg legs. It's just so over the top.
Well,
Everything
it's
about
pirates in space. It
Yes.
has to be over the top.
them. There's just nothing that isn't nothing about them that isn't a complete cliche.
And the line, oh, it turns out the real treasures were my children.
Oh,
Right before he blows up.
beautiful. It's like, why? But awesome.
What is the creature? Like, is it a big parrot?
Is there a big parrot?
Oh, on
No.
his shoulder?
The pirate itself.
He's like a
'cause
lizard.
It's got like
It's
a
like a
beak,
lizard thing.
doesn't it?
Oh, does he have a bit? I can't remember.
He reminds me of the what is it? The villains in the Donkey Kong game. They're the lizard people.
Oh, they're crocodiles.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of like a lizard crocodile type thing, isn't he?
He's sort of purple and weird. I don't really remember.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just-
I just remember the eye
There's
patches
just,
and the hat. And...
To be fair, there's a lot of
There's a lot going on.
accessories covering up the body. I know that he's got 3 eyes, definitely, because Matt Groening loves his 3 eyes.
Yeah, that's right.
We need new chairs.
Sean's just holding up a stump of the chair that he's sitting on.
Yeah.
Very precarious position right now. It's all right.
So if he just disappears from the podcast with a yelp, you know what's happened.
He suddenly
Yeah.
died.
Looks like we're gonna need to find another person.
One thing I did love was that so Bender playing God, his one commandment is God needs booze. And they create the booze
Make
for
it
And
him.
make a double. Yep.
And it says on there, Lord Weiser.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was to beat the censor because the studio didn't like God Weiser. It's too on the nose.
Ah.
Apparently God Weiser's too offensive.
I mean,
Right.
If you make it too obvious.
I mean,
how is Lord and God
Right.
different?
Right.
I mean, I guess Lord
Semantics.
could just be
A Lord.
a lord, like a
Yeah, of the
superior,
manor or,
right? Yeah.
like-
It's not like they say the word God 50 times in the episode.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not as if this episode rags really hard on religion. At
I would
points.
think, I mean, I'm not religious at all. I don't know if you guys are, but I would be interested to hear what kind of religious people who believe in
Well, we
probably a Christianic God think about this episode.
We
Anyone
have a
from
listener,
the First Amalgamated Church could ask.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a pastor who listens to our show,
Oh, of course.
Zachary.
Zachary, yeah.
Sorry about the
Hi,
swearing.
could you tell us what your opinion of this episode is and
Oh,
how it makes you feel?
If he was going to be put off by the swearing, it would have been long before.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The message that counts, not
yeah.
the adverbs.
So the thing I'm thinking of is where they speak to the guy from the First Amalgamated Church and they ask what he can do, and he says, "Well, we could pray." And he
I
asks, "Can
love
you do
that
anything
line.
useful?" And he says,
Nope.
"Nope."
I love that line so much because it's one of my pet peeves when people equate prayer with action.
Yes.
Oh, we got around as a community and we prayed, and then they finally came through, and it's like, yeah, but what did you really do?
Yeah, that's right. And a truly religiously driven person uses their actions to help, right?
And
prayer is kind of supplemental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is like the pursuit of this thing is kind of selfish in that it's something very personal. It's something to appease us. It's, a personal, yes, community comes in later when you have organized religions, but this whole idea of conversing with something that
Prayer's a private
loves
moment
you
rather than
and is looking out for you is kind of, this very personal, selfish thing, kind of personified by Fry in the dogged pursuit of his friend. Like, nothing will stop him. It's all he really cares about.
Yeah, but it's
also
his
about the other
actions,
person, but, it's personal in that sense of it's kind of one person against everything, not just the world and your circumstances, but the galaxy and all of those big crushing questions.
How interesting is it that this episode
my
kind of
mind.
necessitates like more serious questions
Oh,
and
it totally
things about
does,
this
yeah.
episode? Like they even include John Donne poetry in this.
Yeah.
Never send to know for whom the bell tolls for thee. Never send to know for whom the bone bones. The bone bones for thee.
Yeah.
He goes through a lot of
He goes very gothic very quick.
very quickly, doesn't he?
I like how decadent Bender is in his exile. Well, not exile, but
It's pretty. I'd say
in
call it exile.
embracing
Inadvertent
his,
exile.
Yeah, his doom and despair. He will get a candelabra out and play piano.
A toy piano, which
Yes.
is inside him. And he also carves like a Voyager message spaceship.
Yep.
Let them know what the score is.
I love
a great
the
joke.
idea of, thinking ahead of how can I mess with historians.
He's got not a lot else to motivate him,
Yeah.
I guess.
I just realized that he would have gone insane very quickly because he needs beer.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was when they say God needs booze, and it's like, oh, actually, he does need.
No, he
it.
does need
need
it.
it.
He
It's
needs it to survive.
It's not a selfish thing. It is selfish, but it's
Yeah.
not a stupid
Well,
commandment.
it's very
Yeah.
symbiotic in that sense.
Yeah, they need
Well,
someone
except
to
In a
worship.
way
it
that-
destroys the
Well,
society, and
yeah.
he loses his favorite follower loses his arm.
But
While it was going, it was doing well.
until everyone died. Yeah, it's interesting in the sense of Bender as a god needs his followers. Like he needs.
He needs them to survive.
He needs to be
well, it
remembered.
is symbiotic. They need him, and he needs.
Actually,
well, they
I don't think they
need
do
him.
need him.
Now they need him.
Yeah.
Because their
Yeah.
home is on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
He actually is kind of bad for them overall.
No.
Like, they would have been absolutely fine. The Shrimpkins.
The Shrimpkins.
Yeah.
Shrimpkins, which is never mentioned again after they bring it up.
It makes you wonder, like, they are
Do you think-
searching for a god or something to worship. They
They're
seem
very
very
keen,
ready
yeah.
to just be like, yep, God,
With
metal
their-
god, awesome.
Where they're Puritans, like waiting to happen, aren't they? With all the, I don't know, their lifestyle and.
Except for the heathens on his butt.
Yeah.
Well,
The
yeah,
butt
The non-believers.
I'm trying to. I probably used the wrong word as opposed to Puritans, but I don't know that
like,
time of or like
religious fanatics. They're just desperate for a god, right? They're just like, oh, we need a deity, please.
yeah,
Well, we landed on one. Great.
yep,
We're on board. We're right on board.
yeah. You really do wonder if there was hope for them at all. 'Cause it seems like they were ready to
Well,
jump
he was
to.
fulfilled with the love of his family.
Yeah,
He was
well,
fine.
I mean, but
Before Bender started crushing their society with coins, setting their fields on fire, and then blowing them into space.
but also anything could have done that to them.
But
yeah, I mean, they're
They
very
just-
vulnerable.
they just
well, I feel like
didn't
he
have-
accelerated the process
Of course,
significantly.
of course. It's like you're playing Sims and you're just, mucking around and then you put it on double speed to see what happens with these crazy creatures. But I do feel like maybe the Shrimpkins?
Shrimpkins.
Their downfall would have come eventually.
It's very
How-
defeatist, Alan. I
how-
don't believe that.
How distracting
Can't know.
would it be?
I don't think you can know that.
How distracting would it be if you could constantly hear God?
Yeah,
To go through life and hear God talking crap.
Yeah, that would probably be the worst part.
and his level of discourse is not
No,
up there at all.
because if you're
No.
like, dear God, it's like, oh, fuck, what do you want?
Yeah, he does get really short with them after a while.
And knowing that you're on the... Well, were
On
they
God's
on
butt.
his ass? Or they moved there?
They moved.
I think they moved. They must
They
have
moved
moved
because
there.
it was only the
Yeah.
one the one asteroid
Asteroid,
that went onto his
yeah.
stomach, and they obviously migrated away.
Colonized.
Yeah.
And like when he gets to the brewery, right? They have like a separate field.
Yeah,
He starts elsewhere, so they obviously expand.
Yeah.
And,
Interesting,
and
because
kind of
like
colonize.
he's got like organic growth and stuff on his ass.
Maybe they
similar to what's
capture
on the
more
front.
asteroid for them to live on. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Potentially.
He just grabs
That's
one.
a big venture
I
to
don't
move
know.
like a whole mountain. It's kind of like SpongeBob of just moving
bit
the
off.
town slightly
slightly
over.
Oh, that's just a little thing for you. You know Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob. He has a voice on Futurama quite often.
Yeah.
He's a
He
little.
gets around.
He gets around.
He's a great voice actor.
He's there.
And you'd be surprised how, like, often you don't ever recognize him. One of the most
Yeah.
recognizable voices, and you just kind of, like, lose him in whatever character he is.
Well, it's like
Squeezes right in there.
any of the animal voices is Frank Welker.
Mm.
Like that donkey
Yeah.
noise. Frank Welker.
Donkey.
Just does that.
Any,
Who was the Sherpa? Also Frank Walker.
he doesn't do humans.
Oh.
No, he does, because he does Nibbler's human voice too.
Oh yeah.
I love that voice.
Hello.
I
Such
think
a
it's-
nice, deep, resonant. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a nice, warm voice. I quite like it.
I think it's interesting that we end up talking about this stuff in like quite a heavy roundabout way, and it's quite hard to talk about. But the show manages to get away with talking about things with a really light touch.
Yeah.
As they say, like that's kind of the point about God having this light touch. And the first thing he asks about God is like, oh, you know everything I'm ever going to do. Yes. What if I do something different? Then I don't know.
I don't know that. Yeah.
And it's really, it's a very, that sets your mind off on this like really kind of interesting cognitive path about an omniscient God in 2 comedic lines. It's very clever. I think that is the strength of this episode. The deep themes with the careful touch.
Yeah, it's simplicity,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very simple.
I was happy to spend, because the thing is they don't 50-50 split the episode between Bender and then Fry and Leela at home. It's more like 70-30. Like it's very Bender central, and he holds the screen every time you're there. Like
Yeah.
it's not really wasted or flat space. Like I could have handled the entire episode in space.
Speaking of space, jump on that segue.
Hey.
Oh, it's spreading.
But the nebulas and all the galaxies in this episode are so beautiful.
Oh, yeah, the
This is a
background's
really
where he drifts
pretty
through.
episode.
And based off of real nebulas.
Exactly.
Oh, really? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Visually stunning episode. Like
Yeah.
when he has the teardrop onto the Malachi's land and the tidal wave.
Yeah.
And you see also, like, at various points, you see Bender looks down on them, and you see their tiny society from his perspective. And then you
Yeah.
also see the world
at their level.
at that level as well, with Bender's huge head towering over them. And
Yeah.
it gives you a real quick indication of the disparity
yeah.
between them.
Especially things of actual size, like when is it a penny comes down?
Yeah.
Yes, with Coolio on the side of it.
Yeah. And crushes, 4 houses or something.
That's right.
Death again.
I mean, a grim way to show actual size, but you still do see
Had to be done.
how tiny. And yeah, you said they're fragile. They're fragile little
vulnerable.
things.
Yeah.
Well, compared to Bender anyway, and he's trying so hard. He's trying so hard to help them.
It's the visuals that communicate that relationship really work with the plot really well. The animators have served the what the writers are trying to do really, really well. It gels together in a nice way in this
I've
episode.
just had an interesting thought about Bender.
Yes?
It's interesting. We've seen him.
He's evil.
Well, we see him at his most cruel at his friends, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But when the nicest we've seen him is to the orphans.
When he's in a
and the
position of
Shrimpkins.
responsibility.
These tiny things that are fragile, and he feels somewhat responsible. And as much as he'll moan and bitch about them, "Oh, well, yeah, of course I can't hear them; they're on my ass," or telling the orphans to shut up. He is still trying his hardest not to, not
He's
only
really upset when it all goes wrong.
yeah,
as
not
well.
only to not be awful, but to actively help them, which I think is
Give Bender responsibility and culpability, and he kind of
Yeah.
runs with it a bit.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
true, yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. Sure,
I guess in
can
a
do it.
way that, kids who are, distracted in school and want all attention and kind of will disrupt the class, it's often if you make them assume a teacher role, they'll relish it because that's all they really want. They want someone to look up to them.
In the same way that they...
And we know about Bender, he wants people to love him so much.
Yeah,
so if
he does crave affection.
Yeah, if you give him a tiny thing, he will kind of run with it a little bit. And Fry becomes his tiny thing in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's maybe why the Pharaoh episode doesn't ring quite as true to his character.
Yeah.
It feels like a little extreme and almost out of character for him to be... We know that
That
he's callous,
cruel.
but he becomes so cruel and evil in that
Yeah.
episode that it feels like the Bender that we come to adore in Cyber House and this episode, they're not the same character.
No.
The thing is with Pharaoh, though, is that he doesn't see it as this horrible thing that he's doing. Like, he calls it cruelty, but he just sees it, but it's efficiency. And
that's right.
And, this is efficiency for a goal, which is to make this statue, which is to make me remembered.
Which is very,
and even,
very
Bender.
Even when he is a slave, he's loving it. He
doesn't
loves
equate
the
it.
idea, and he's working really hard. And the idea of, like, you spend a lifetime carving a man's toe, you'll remember him.
Yeah,
like,
maybe
he thinks
it isn't-
it's kind of like a noble pursuit almost.
Yeah, maybe it isn't
He's a
as
robot
dissonant.
after all.
We're thinking very deep about Bender's character.
Oh, this episode invites that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he himself is very... He's in search of answers, particularly after everyone in his civilization has died.
Yeah.
And he meets God, and he's like, well, I don't know what to do. I tried, and I didn't try.
What did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And he is searching in himself for an answer, and that invites you to ask, well, what does motivate Bender? The episode is weighty enough for you to ask those questions about him.
And because Bender's your anti-hero. Because he's not ultimately someone... And they touch on this in a later episode where Bender becomes the soap opera star. Like, he's not a role model.
No.
He's straight up not.
Yeah.
But they have to look for ways to make him not just a straight out sociopath.
It's an interesting it works really well, I think, with Bender's character, and the great payoff at the end where he goes and saves the monks because he's like, well, someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen on its own. If we had Fry or someone else in space, it wouldn't really work because...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, although
they'd
Fry
die.
is willing to ditch them because it's hard to go back. We've just got all the way down. Like,
I mean, fair point. It is hard.
It is the Himalayas. And to put a bit of a damper on this episode, lots of people also do die trying to bring dead people back down.
Yeah.
Don't do Everest, guys. Don't do it.
Leela wants to be
Put in a dignified pose.
where she dies because she's very okay with the idea that she'll probably die on the side of a mountain.
Well, yet again, if you do Everest, you gotta be taking that chance.
Super dangerous.
It's very, very dangerous.
So with the Bender's character, I don't think the jokes land very well personally, but they have like a counterpoint where they try and replace Bender with a friendly robot, and it shows you how like offensive having the opposite of Bender would be, where he's like
helper,
where he's just like super nice, and trying to be good and bad at it, and it's really icky and horrible, and it just makes you miss Bender. It makes Fry miss Bender,
Which is
I don't think it's that funny, but
no.
But
I wonder if it was meant to
I think it is. I think it's meant to be a gag.
just for me, it's just annoying. Like, it's funny how much more annoying a nice person interrupting you while you're talking is to an evil person interrupting you. Like, it makes sense if Bender talks over you or talks about beer, but when he's like, hey, you want to do this? Cool, do that. Okay, hey, hear this thing? Cool, awesome. Nah, I just thought you'd want to hear it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Hate
just
him.
the idea of replacing something. Bender's not a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he is a robot. Like, it's not like, I don't know.
He's
In
not a
some
pet,
way,
is he,
in some
right?
way, he is an item, I guess. Or
He gets
a
jealous of
commodity.
a dog later.
Well, yeah, but like, that idea of just like, pet died. I'll just get another. It's the same. It's so horrible.
so
And Fry touches on that as well in the Beck episode, Root of All Evil. No, not Root of All Evil. No, it is. Where he becomes a broken robot.
It's not Root
of All Evil. He becomes a broken robot, and then they're like, okay, let's throw him away. It's like, throw him away?
Yeah.
He's a friend.
Bend it in the wind.
Bend it in the wind.
Yep. Yeah.
He's not disposable. He's our friend.
He's a friend. Just fix
Love you,
him.
Bender.
Or give him little arms.
Just send him into space to have an existential experience.
Yeah, I like also the idea of these people searching for God in space. Like, I think there is
it seems quite plausible.
Yeah, there is a cool way, and I know there is some field of people who think they've found God in math, or things like that, and it is this idea of, hey, science and religion are not enemies.
Yeah.
If you find something, well, science and religion are both about exploring the world, right?
Finding meaning in it, yeah.
So why can't they kind of be a bit in harmony.
What do they say they're going to do when they find him? They're just going to
utter
recite
a prayer,
Say a prayer.
a short prayer.
Yeah, well,
and that's all they've thought about.
Yeah.
They might not have long left.
Yeah.
By the time they find him.
Yeah. It's like, oh, hey, God, thanks.
Yeah.
I reckon we should head on to a vote. Godfellas versus Roswell That Ends Well. I'm hitting up one on the chalkboard to Roswell That Ends Well. For me, it's funnier. That's basically the crux of it that really puts it over. I had a better time as far as just sitting back and losing myself in an episode that really draws upon the mythology and the world building and just has ramifications heading forward and just touching upon a lot that comes on before it. You've got award-winning performances, literally, and also just kind of star turns from Zoidberg and, Fry, to be honest, in that episode. I just thoroughly enjoy it, and I think it's close to the consummate Futurama episode.
Cool. I'm going to go next, so I'm not a tiebreaker. This episode I really, really enjoy. But I'm going to go for Roswell That Ends Well because, it's just a better whole, I think. I like parts of this episode and I like how deep it can go, whereas Roswell kind of like just piles straight through.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of those jokes that don't quite land do take me out a bit, and maybe because the idea that I do have a complicated relationship with religion, it's not going to be as emotionally resonant for me as something like Jurassic Park or...
I love that movie.
I said Bark.
I
don't believe you
we
did.
will rewind it. You'll hear
We'll find out in the editing when we
Poppycock.
slow it down
I
and repeat
said
it.
Bark. But...
41 minutes, I'm going to look back on this.
Jurassic Park, or is it The Sting?
The Sting?
Yeah, those two, I am completely engrossed in, well, I guess because that's more of a drama, whereas this is a big existential thing, which is great to watch and think about, but it is the idea that it takes you out because you're trying to think about the big ideas in the episode, whereas drama or comedy, it hits you straight in the here and now.
Yeah. I've always said that Futurama, like an episode, is usually one of, if not all of, three things, which is it's made up of the comedy, the sci-fi aspect, and the emotional resonancy.
Yeah.
And I think that Roswell ticks all three boxes on that, and that's why it gets my vote over Godfellas.
Yeah. Over to you.
I think both episodes deserve the accolades that they have,
totally.
for sure. They both have excellent writing and great gags and good characters. They're both episodes that you could show people and go, why do you like Futurama? You can show either of these episodes. But I think Roswell is more pacey and fun and showcases more of the cast, even though not everyone gets a look in, uses more of the cast and has more of the freewheeling, fuck it, let's just do it energy of Futurama that pulls you along.
This is definitely a slower episode.
Sure. I think this episode would win a head-to-head against so many others.
Yeah.
Roswell doesn't give you much time to stop and ruminate. And think.
Yeah. I love this episode, but it's just edged out by Roswell. So I'm unanimous with you.
Unanimous praise for Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And Godfellas, you did well. Voices. Is it the voice of
God?
God?
Oh.
Or is it one of the monks?
Well, the monk is just Alec Guinness. Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original. We are actually a peace fighting. That's
peace fighting.
Peace fighting. That's a new thing entirely. He modeled it off of Alec Guinness
for meditation.
Yes.
It's not quite that, though.
Not quite. This is the worst crazy sect I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Or there's plenty of good God lines. Well, yes. If you make it kind of like an electrical thing.
My arms are tired from hugging.
Oh, that is a good pick. Yeah.
Maybe if I hug God some more, he'll save us from the nuclear.
Well, Malachi's kind of like that. Oh, please help us, God.
Yeah.
My name is Malachi. It means lover of metal god.
Nice save, Malachi.
I'm practicing my hugging so I can hug Daddy when he gets back from talking with God.
Cute.
Daddy, please, my arms are tired from hugging.
Good choice.
Malachi Jr.
Yeah, Malachi Jr.
Hey guys, if you want to hear us talk about Futurama some more, you can join us next week for Future Stock.
I don't know what that is.
Future Stock is where Planet Express is taken over by that guy.
Okay, right.
Ah.
Still doesn't ring a bell.
That
but
guy.
I'll
That
experience
guy.
it afresh.
That guy. But until that time, please contact babybeardmedia@gmail.com for all opinions and all profanities you want to throw our way.
Or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @BabyBeardMedia. All our podcasts are on Stitcher, Spreaker. They're actually on SoundCloud if you're still using that. iTunes as well.
And remember to bury your opinion of us with you so that historians can dig it up later and know the score.
Done. I have been Sean.
I'm Ellen.
I'm Phil.
God, someone save this ending from me.
That sounds probable.
If you don't do the ending right, people won't think you've done anything at all.
What a good fucking scene. Am I right? Am I right?
You're
we all
right.
know what we're
Did they
thinking
use
of.
that twice?
In Thor Ragnarok?
Or did they just use it at the end in the credits?
Just at the end.
Yeah.
Well, they used it in the trailer,
Yeah.
but then just at the end when shit goes down.
Each of us talks about our favourite sci-fi comedy, whether it's a film or a TV show.
So 3 people talking about Galaxy Quest.
Well, yeah, but yeah, exactly that.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be-
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that.
Okay.
Alright.
All right. Oh, yeah.
It'll probably break mid-episode and it'll be hilarious.
Be hilarious in an audio format. Just the sound of someone falling.
Sean suddenly died.